You're listening to the Swap Society podcast, and I'm your host, Nicole Robertson. I interview thought leaders and change makers who are working to create a more sustainable and equitable world through fashion, art, and activism. Join us for a dose of climate optimism as we envision a brighter future. Hey everyone, welcome to the Swap Society podcast. Today, I'm so excited to be talking with social entrepreneur Zoë Melo. Welcome to the show, Zoë.
Thank you.
Oh, it's so good to have you here. Where are you talking to us from today, and where are you from originally?
Well, I'm talking from Del Rey, which is close to Marina Del Rey, and Mar Vista is just in the border of Culver City, in Los Angeles, basically. And originally, I'm from Brazil.
Oi, tudo bem?
Tudo. Which, when I say that, it's kind of so many places comes to me, places that I have lived and have a deep relationship. So it's like this multi person who lives in many places, that's pretty much me.
So you were a fashion model. The fashion industry has changed a lot over the years. I don't think that back then you could say that fashion was sustainable, but what are the ways that you've seen the fashion industry become less and less sustainable over the years since you were first in the industry?
Well, I think the fashion from my time, there were no such a conversation at all. I think it was pretty much the, top designers, which were couture. They work different ways, let's say Oscar de la Renta, that already made a name and suddenly were selling to Bergdorf Goodman, selling to those big department stores. And then there were the designers, that the ones I like it most, which they are in between, which is pretty much like they sell already well, they can survive, they can have a company, but they somehow become their life, they never became rich, but being inside that environment with the rich ladies, the socialites, that support that design, the high fashion there. And then there is the big companies that came, Zara and H&M and, all of those that became big. It's different than Calvin Klein and all that, right? That is really fast, super fast fashion. I think the difference is our conscience. At that moment, we always thought as an industry, how cool it was. In my case, as a model, I always thought, what is the impact me as a model could have? In my case, I was super androgynous. So I was very already interested in the impact that other parts as a woman could have being a model. And not so much, sometimes my agents, they used to complain that I didn't like to do Coca-Cola, or, I really did not do any advertisement that I was not aligned with. And I'm happy I didn't do it. So fashion for me was, I like the fashion. I like the design part, the creativity, and how I could express myself. I love to be in the fashion shows, and I did quite a bit, and for good designers, and I'm happy with my career.
I also really appreciate beautiful design, and I think that there are so many fashion designers over the years that have just created these stunning and beautiful and thought-provoking pieces of fashion, and I love that part. I think that some proponents of fast fashion feel that fast fashion has democratized fashion, made fashion more accessible. And I think that you can say from a price point standpoint, it has, but it's created all of this chaos in the world, not just in the fashion industry, by exploiting workers to make the fashion
Yeah.
cheaply, exploiting our natural environment to
Mhm.
create things so fast. I mean, now we have this ultra fast fashion even, right? It's not just making clothing more affordable. It's like it had this huge ripple effect. And I think part of it though is this kind of overconsumption that's been created as well. I think that
Yes.
if someone were to buy a couture piece, there are different levels of society, right? So, but I mean, I think if you invest in a very beautiful couture garment, you're not going to just throw that in the trash most likely when you're done with it, even if you don't wear it very many times, right? And I think that these models, it's tough to compare them to one another. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about this overconsumption problem that we have, where, yes, I love beautiful things,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think that I should have something new every 5 minutes, right? So that's one part of the problem. And then also just, the way the industry has kind of shifted. But yeah, I'd just love to hear your thoughts on that as well.
Well, you see, actually, I love this conversation. Um, okay, let's see. We are very divided in these thoughts as society. So
Mm-hmm.
there is the part of the population that do not think about it at all, right? They can make the money. They like clothes, like to dress, as everybody does. They just go and shop. And there are those that don't care at all about it and just buy because we have to dress, right? There is this part. And then there are the other people that are really consumers, right? They love fashion, which I think it's great. They just shop. And then there are those people who only dresses handmade design, okay, from designers who makes their clothes by group of artisans, not artisans, but really private small group of makers. And I think it's great also that they can do that, but that stays within the 1%. That's one thing. Nobody in the majority of the population can buy something. I don't want to mention any particular designer name, but many I know and come to my mind. But it's like their products, their clothing is very expensive. So there we go. That is great, but it's not the solution. For the moment we are living and we trying to solve. Then there is these other ones that consume and has the conscience to buy things like, I buy things in places that resell. I
Mm-hmm.
do that a lot. Um, and I pretty much, and if it's not underwear, I just don't buy it. And as time goes by, I really feel I need less. I just need to have like those very special pieces that coordinates and accents and things that you put it on. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's something we need to work. But then it's like how to solve the problem. And I think we're not going to stop these big companies to continue producing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need to talk. We need to bring the conversation to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we isolate ourselves and we just stay in one side, boom, 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 boom. It's the same as politics at the moment. And it depends a lot of what kind of information we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or experience in life. So I really think we need to come together. And that's one thing that I'm working this new business model for a design and fashion event, that we actually bring this into the communities. We bring this into airports. We bring this into where the public, all kind of people walks by and have access and can talk, can discuss, can have access to this information, almost like a training, a new probably a shopping mall, that it's different than used to be before.
I love that. I think that, and I love that you shop secondhand. I have been also wearing secondhand almost exclusively for the most part since about 2010, when I started learning about how polluting the fashion industry was. That was kind of my first introduction, and I was appalled. And then I started learning about the human rights abuses, and then I thought, oh my gosh, I love fashion, I love clothes, but I don't want to be a part of a system that is polluting unnecessarily just because I want to wear a cute dress, right? Or that is, harming other humans so that I can get cheap clothes. And so, secondhand is such a great alternative to buying brand new things. And there's so much secondhand out there that less than 20% of thrift shop donations even get resold, for example. So a lot of people think, oh, well, I'll just donate it and then I can, have a clear conscience because my clothes are helping someone in need, when in reality, they just get into this secondhand system and ultimately wind up polluting a lot of places in the global South. I love this idea that you want to transform places like old shopping malls, airports, public spaces, to educate the public and have this conversation about consumption, because I keep thinking back to this idea. There was, of course, I think, therefore I am. And then there was the artist that did that piece, I shop, therefore I am. And it's kind of like,
I love that. Yes.
What's the new, what's that new thing? Because why is shopping? Why are the things that we possess the focal point of our lives, as opposed to building community and, improving the lives of our lives, but also those in our communities as well?
I think we need to change the conversation around, because that exists in my circle of the fashion world, to be exclusive, to be the first ones, to be the people who has the voice. Today it is in a social media, just open it. And I really think if we are not doing in our business something that is actually good emotionally and physically to us, why do it? Because for the planet also, I think we need to change.
So I'd love to learn about how you got into social and sustainable entrepreneurship.
That's an interesting question. No, it's just because I was in Portugal, and after 23 years, I did model again. And it brought me back the last picture that I took here in LA in the year was end of 1999 yearbook of the year 2000, and the photographer Veronique Vial. And it's me naked, and my body makes the number 2. And at the moment, I was questioning a lot the fashion industry And I was already kind of like, I think I want to do something else. And that photo shoot was like a wake up call. During the photo shoot, I just like, this is the perfect picture for me to end my modeling career. That was me naked, and next to me, 3 tires, the photo black and white, and it's beautiful. It
I'd
came
love to
out.
see it.
I mean, I just saw when she sent me the catalog and the postcard, obviously, because at that moment we didn't see immediately, like only a few Polaroids. So anyway, that was the moment. And I think it has a lot to do already with my concern about the environment and the social, issues. And then after that, I started going into, instead of the fashion world, I ended up in the design world, more in the furniture and objects, which I learned. I worked for Inex with architects, and I learned about the industry. And then after I was already doing exhibitions on Abbot Kinney, in stores, in galleries, all about, with products made by hand from different parts of the world. And that's when I was hired by Technica, which is a great company. And they had this program, Design with Conscience, which I just fit in perfectly. And that moment, I learned a lot about the skills that I did not know I had, even though I have designed nightclubs and we have done with other partners like the interior of spaces. And using recycled materials, using, recycled objects that is reused. And so that's when I started really working with design for social and environmental impact. And that took me to travel around the world, work with the artisans, create the stories. And at that time, which is like year 2002, that's when it really started, like having a more attention from the media, but it didn't have all the names that today has. Social impact, sustainability, was not so, it was still very within our design circle. And obviously in design, really nice magazines and museums that was exhibiting. I used to go to all the design fairs in Milan, in New York, in Miami, during Art Basel. And that's when also working like with really great designers. But then after I got to one point, I wanted to go deeper again. I have this entrepreneur or have this experience that I think it's part of who I am, to explore the unknown. So at one point, great, this is a great success. It's beautiful. It's a great position to have and all that. But I really wanted to do more in terms of the social aspect to it. So obviously, being inside an industry, it's a lot of more pressure because it requires that you really produce more and sells more to keep growing. So I founded Touch, and I started consulting also. So Touch was also incredible, working with the designers, consulting, exhibiting. But again, I got to one point that I really wanted to do the events. I wanted to have people doing the talks, and then I organized street TEDx events, which was great because I already bring inside the events. The events, like trade shows, always been something that bothers me a lot because the trade shows itself, it's a huge waste. Just like the rugs that they put on for every single exhibition. I remember at the gift show in New York, just that itself, I was like, oh my God, here I am, exhibiting products that is good for the environment, but the entire industry, it's just such a waste. So there I go again to a new experimentation. And that's when I decided, I think it was about 4 years ago, to create Neighbors by Design, because I really start feeling like, wait, here we are. If you go to Zara, to Target, to IKEA, IKEA has a little bit of product that the name starts coming out in the back of their company, social responsibility, doing good, the planet. But we walk into the stores, we walk into the supermarket, we walk into, like Amazon, which is, the name itself, it's horrible. Just considering that the Amazon forest is being burned.
Yeah.
So it is a very difficult issue to actually get it resolved, So Touch also, I actually left here the last event that we did, that I came up with the name Beyond Sustainability, because I think it's already talking about sustainability. It is a big problem because nobody really knows what sustainability is. What is sustainability? What are we talking about? Okay, sustainability of me as a person, sustainability of the planet, the product, who makes, and it's not it's not a very easy task to make things that it's made with, products, to keep that growing, to sustain the artisans. It's beautiful. Like, we can create the first batches and present, we get press, but then to really grow and sustain, it takes a long, which I call a new business model. You really need to work on that. It's still like right now, I'm working starting a project with amazing people in Lisbon, in Portugal, which is more related to the fashion, which I found it very interesting. Suddenly it's like, wow, the fashion world, it's kind of coming back to me. And but I really find it that the political time we live, the society, the way we are trained to consume, the needs, the easy task of pressing the button and buying something, even us who works with it, is catch sometimes. It's a pretty large issue that's to be addressed, and that's where comes the pilot model of Neighbors by Design, which it has so many aspects to it. A circular economy, a neighborhood, neighbors come together, they donate unused materials. And with these unused materials, I find the neighbors who knows how to make. So that it's an interesting part of it is that when they working together, they also sharing different aspects of their lives. They talk about politics. They have different opinions. And I think we need that.
So, you mentioned community, and I think that that's a really important topic to talk about. And I love that your project is focused on that, because I think in a lot of these conversations about sustainability and circularity, and just creating a brighter future, right, for us moving forward, we do need to focus a little more locally than on this kind of
Yes.
global scale of shipping things all across the world. So exactly what does this project strive to do specifically?
So it kind of, event that I make, it's super interesting because I bring together people that we sit down in a sort of a TED Talk event of a day, but a little bit more intimate. Next, then came the pandemic. I could not make more of the events. Now we're starting over again to think about the next one. And I really want this to be in neighborhoods. But in order to do that, I feel like I go back to Neighbors by Design. We have designed the project.
Very cool.
Now it's a matter of this needs to go into the city, an incubator, in order to grow and to be, maybe an open source. Most likely that's what I want. I still do projects and keep testing, which during the pandemic, I was like, okay, we cannot get together, even though we did the mask for the neighborhood. That was amazing. Like we did about 2,000 masks, and with the Ray City Council.
Oh, wow.
And that was really a great project during the pandemic. But I also was like, you know what? I'm talking about sustainability. I'm going to dedicate some time to myself and study my body. I'm going to turn 60, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. So I started a vegetable garden in the front yard. And that became a huge project because suddenly I was being a carpenter. I was making the raised beds. Neighbors were passing by. And that became like the point. I was like, wow, that's Neighbors by Design. So there is so many ways for this project to grow. That's the way to go. I mean, in my opinion, because we have so many spaces that we can do that. Look at the shopping malls. They practically empty. Look at the promenade, how stores are closing, how people less and less shop. So we can use those areas. I think our fashion show should be there, not in the closed world like I did my fashion world in the fashion weeks, So that is stay among us, right? So we need, because people like it and everybody inspires. Today has Instagram, has, all that. But are we really making the real change? That's where I think Neighbors by Design could act really nice in these areas. I mean, I'm talking about, Los Angeles, but in other cities also can work perfectly, like this rug ended up in an exhibition in Paris, which is beautiful. Actually, it was next to a product by the Campana brothers, by other, super famous designers. But this is made here in this garage.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
And it was a T-shirt donated by neighbors that we cut it and we made. I have it.
Oh, great.
Like a prototype. It has this same sort of technique
Mm-hmm.
but it's all made here, you know.
I love it.
It's like this. Why do we have to have this on top of the cans? You know, it's great. Obviously, makes it easier. It's great for, you know, selling a product. So I have that. Everybody who comes here brings, and we making lamp.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Well, upcycling is so great.
Okay, it's a great actually prototype, but it's a great thing to do at the schools in the neighborhood. One of the schools nearby, the manager passed by and she's like, "Oh my God, it's so beautiful. The raising beds you're making. Can you teach in the school? Can you bring?" And when she said the school has no green at all, you know, and I'm like, yes. So this is what we need. You know, not only, yes, we can dress well, but we need to talk about things that are around us that go, wow, I can actually do it, you know. So that has a lot to do with what I am in a mission
I love it.
right now.
So I always love a good fashion love story. And I love to ask, do you have a favorite piece in your closet? And if so, what is it and what do you love about it?
You know, that's one thing that it's very difficult to let go, right? It's like, oh no. You know, I have a piece of Vivian Tan. I love her. Her clothing, and I still have this dress like from late 80s, I think. And it's a long dress. It has two pieces. One is, and the top is a little transparent. The inside, it's like a t-shirt, long in brown. And on top is this print of yogi of Asian, you know, but beautiful. It's just gorgeous. I love that. It still fits me. I put it on not very often. I still have like some good pieces. You know, in particular, I like to dress very simple, but I love bracelets and not an earring person, but I like shawls and a little touch and bags. I love bags.
Yeah. Yeah. So a minimalist wardrobe with fun accessories, which
yes, I like the accessories.
It's a fun way to dress up your wardrobe.
I think also has to do with the fact that I travel a lot. And traveling, you learn that the less things that you can just change simply, and it is the accessories that give that change in a daily life basis, instead of having your whole wardrobe in your luggage. So I like to go more simple.
It's funny you mentioned that Vivian Tam dress, and I think I had something from hers in the early 90s that I used to really love that was also two layers. The underneath was like a red slip. It was kind of like a short mini, and then it had kind of a sheer overlay as well. I don't think I have any photos of me
Actually,
in it, but I
it's
remember
early
it.
90s.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. That nice store on Chelsea, that's where I bought it, I remember.
But I remember it. It's like that's the thing when you buy something that you really love and that's memorable, although I have to confess I've no idea what ultimately became of that dress because I have cycled through my wardrobe a lot over the years, but I remember that dress. I loved it. That was such a cool style back then, and I loved it.
Yeah, she was good.
What's inspiring you right now?
I'm reading this book called Sea Standing, which is a great book. I love reading this book, like parts of it. The Botany of Desire by Michael Pollan. I love him, So I'm very inspiring growing vegetables. It's really like it's a world that's suddenly the dirt and the soil, the plants and the mix. Actually, I don't have pictures here to show you and to walk. It's not the case, but the front yard is amazing.
I'll have to see it.
Yeah, it looks great. That's where I have like meetings. And I let the neighbors come, the kids. I always have a little treasure that I hide somewhere. And it's very inspired to keep you aware also, like to live a life without packaging, like food as a product. That's the world we live, right? And it's keto, it's this, it's that. I mean, there are so many things. And at the end of the day, you can eat very simple. It is now the fashion. I feel it's calling me. Somehow, I mean, I'm saying that because most of this, it's all products. And I can show you that, for example, it does have, as I said, I like accessories. So you see, this is a project actually that I have. This one is in Brazil, is Hibrida. And this is Tetra Pak, which it's all recycled.
That's so cool.
It's this horrible thing of milk, of coffee, that also people just throw away. And it's pretty bad for the environment. So this is a lot of the type of projects that, it always inspires me, and to make reusing materials. And talking about accessories, I mean, I just pick up stuff here. It's full, like, this is
wow.
I love this. This is a Portuguese designer, actually.
Oh, that's so fun. Wow.
That is, so beautiful. And then, inner tubes. This also, it's a friend of mine, Christina, who makes those.
Wow.
It's a beautiful necklace.
So cool.
So those things really inspire me to, keep doing what I'm doing. And also, I'm really into like this new business model, because you can't, that's where the social entrepreneur comes, because my work has nothing to do of making the product. I'm very good in product development, in helping the creative person to make that come true. That's pretty much my role. And I like that. And with the time, having founded so many different types of companies, and that also with the time, I really can't think of a project if you don't have a business model. And right now, the combination of the social, environmental, product, and fashion show, whatever, all together, this can really become an interesting social project that we can bring everyone together. I went to a conference in Mexico City, like right before the pandemic. And it was interesting. Before everybody was, when they were talking, it was like a round table. And I had a question, and then I mentioned Neighbors by Design, and I mentioned that the Kardashians did give, the Kardashian sisters that has a brand here in LA, they donated through a friend of mine some materials for Neighbors by Design project. And I remember when I mentioned the Kardashians' name, oh my God, some people did not like at all that the Kardashians. I know. And that's where the problem is. I find that she did not even listen to the rest of what actually Neighbors by Design is. If we can bring people that actually are exploring and has the power, I'm not saying that's them, but this fast fashion, if we can bring them to a conversation inside a garage, that will be fantastic, a winning point for me, in my view, for the entire project. And that's where we need to go. We need to create models that both work together to improve each one's business and the community come together and solve this problem.
It does seem that, sometimes in certain communities, like the sustainability community, for example, there is a little bit of gatekeeping, right? Where, oh, well, you can't talk to them because they've done X, Y, Z. But if we don't bring everybody into the conversation, then how do we make progress? Because these large companies, for example, they may have a terrible track record. And I understand we have to beware of greenwashing, but they have so much brand reach and so much power and so much leverage.
Exactly.
How do we not include them in these conversations? If they're not a part of it, how do we make change?
Because you see, just us talking bad about them, it's not going to solve the problem. By now, we have enough time where all this is happening. Also, the green blah, blah, blah. Beautiful, looks great. I mean, we can do amazing pictures and, take this to glamour level where we all say, wow, but we're not resolving the problem, So am I saying that those people should not exist or should stop? Not at all. Is that through revolutions? I mean, there are tons of revolutions out there. Okay, so let's talk. Let's come together and see how we can create a business model. Because at the end of the day, all these beautiful things and photos, I mean, I can spend the entire day making amazing photos and put on Instagram. I've been so slow on social media that I feel like, oh my God, the past 2 years, I have done so much. Actually, I never posted one picture of the front yard garden. Which is like, wow, but I was testing myself also. I don't want to be controlled by nothing. I like my freedom and I'm going to keep it. That's how I keep it myself healthy, probably. The other thing is to we travel cross country, which was amazing. I always wanted to do that. I had never done before. I didn't post one picture. We just went to Portugal. I posted one picture and it's like, I saw all my friends that I love and it was an amazing picture. And, so I don't know what to do with this part. But I'm very excited of the event that we are creating, the business model that is so clear now to me after these all experimentations, and also to bring the food together as another part of it, So obviously I see myself inside doing a fashion show, vegetables and all that.
I love that you mentioned Michael Pollan because I have read some of his books. I have not read Botany of Desire yet. But there are a few things that he's written that have always really resonated with me from a food perspective, but I think that they can be applied into fashion or other areas of our life. One is the grandmother rule or the great grandmother rule or the great great grandmother rule. But, he said, if your grandmother wouldn't recognize it to be food, you probably shouldn't eat it. And, but I think about that in fashion too. How did our grandmothers or our great grandmothers, how did they dress? How did they treat their clothing? And so kind of looking back, right, we've gotten caught up in this overconsumption and this kind of crazy world that we're in. So how can we look back? And then there's another one that, part of it I'm blanking, but it's like something like eat real food, not too much, mostly plants. And I think that there could be a fashion version of that too, right?
There is a connection. The other thing, we need to change the model type because they lost a lot, I think, the impact with social media, right? Because everybody take a picture, influencers. And I think that's why I don't like doing so much the Instagram and take people towards that direction, which is very consuming. I had an intern once, and she couldn't leave her cell phone. After the third day, I was like, oh my God, that takes the person to be in the present. When I think about my life, oh my God, I have stories that have happened to me that if I had the cell phone, it wouldn't have happened. Like, I never forget what happened the first time I arrived in Lisbon, that the people who were going to pick me up at the airport, my plane was delayed like 2 hours and they were not there. I get in a cab and I have the wrong address. The address number that I gave was actually the zip code number. And you walk, you drive, and then you go, okay, I don't have a cell phone, right? And I tell the driver, is the street very long? He said, no, it's a small street. I said, leave me in the middle of the street and I'm going to find Manuel Reis. And that's what I did. I sat down on my log. And then this woman, she passed by, she parked her car, actually. And then she asked, what are you doing over there? I said, well, I'm looking for Manuel Reis. And she said, he lives right here. And I'm like, great. And she said, let me check. She went there, she pressed the button, it was like a small building. And then she said, it doesn't look he's there, but come with me. You can use my phone. And that's what happened. I went to her house and then she offered me to go in the bathroom. Oh, you travel a lot, use my bathroom. And then she offered me tea while I was calling, and they came over and picked me up. So I never forget these stories, which I love living this unknown, the surprises that life brings to you. So I feel we're in a moment we need to come together. We need to leave some of these old ways of thinking of business, surviving, be more trustful, that we need to build a new form. This book that I showed, The Sea Standing, it's great.
Okay.
Because not only talk about the ocean, the seaweeds, that is great for cleaning the plastic, but also mention about like humanity for politicians. We need to bring them back to be humans, because they pretty much now, okay, it's freedom of speech. We can just say whatever, right? Lying or not lying, it's not an issue anymore. It's really becoming a mess, right? It is a mess. And we need to bring back that, we can do it. We can help each other. You can count on me next door.
Yeah. So considering that the world does feel very much like it is just in an absolute mess, from climate anxiety, political anxiety, all of these things that are going on in the world, what makes you feel optimistic about the future?
I do I meet people that inspire me every single day. And the reason they inspire me maybe is because my attitude towards them and towards what I bring into the table lights on them their good side. It's like when I'm here and then Stacy says to me, "Oh, I want to bring my daughter to meet you." And then comes the daughter. She talks fashion, which is like, she shows me her drawing. She's 10 years old, and it's like, that's so inspiring. It's when it knocks on my door, it's a neighbor kid that she knew was my birthday, and she comes with her grandparents, and then she asked me to open the gate to show her grandparents the passion fruits in the backyard. This inspires me, because I really see, yes, there is, if you watch, in the news, everything is chaotic in the higher level, big companies, but in the smaller, it's the post office man that walks in as a real people. So I really think the real people, they exist. And if we really bring this together to them, yeah, I think we can solve the big problem. Each person that do not buy a packaging with those, it's already great.
I love it.
Because you see, there is, like, when we pass by homeless, times I come home, I ask what they need and I give. It's like, oh, you're helping them. That's why they exist, because people give them food, give them things. And a lot of people think like that. I don't think anybody wants to be homeless, I really don't. But there is an issue about resolving this problem. It's much bigger than this, don't you think?
Yeah.
So there is, we can go into the mental problems, we can go into the economical problem, but it's a growing problem. And that creates job in the government. There is a lot of money that comes. So why we don't have the solution? So maybe we shouldn't depend as much to think why they don't solve, but through a more local, we talk between us, and not to be so much, oh no, it's only the government who can resolve this. Why we do not bring this solution to the government, close to us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we need to take more responsibility as an individual. And that for me is very exciting, because it has something new to discover, something new people to meet. to bring ideas. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's the other thing. I think people are so afraid of failing. I love failing. My life, I can put the amount of achievements as great as amount of things that did not work. But whatever doesn't work, it's just a collection of learning experience that you can put together and come up with. Now I feel excited. It's like, wow, Neighbors by Design, Touch, working for companies, traveling the world, seeing so many things. It's like, wow, it's time to make a business plan when all this can come together inside one, place and be distributed. And I'm super excited about it. Human-centered design. And I know so many incredible people around the world that if we really sit down, which we do actually, they are all very active people in conferences and doing their jobs and stuff. But we need to really, I sometimes question, why are we still where we are? There is something that we haven't solved. And I think if we're talking about environment, definitely overconsumption is a problem. Mm-hmm. The point is how to address this, how to control this, how much a store will know that you bought. That's complicated. Yeah. So it's a very difficult issue to actually solve.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for talking with us and sharing your passion and your ideas and your story. I really appreciate it. And I'm so excited to see how this business model kind of makes its way into the world and, what you're working on into the future. And I'm so excited to get to know you better as well. Thank you.
And let's plan for you to come over here because, there are amazing prototypes, and I really want to share with you the next steps of this project.
I would love that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening to the Swap Society podcast. Swap Society is an online clothing swap for women and kids that makes it easy and affordable to mix up your wardrobe sustainably. We're a growing community of women across the USA who are creating positive change by swapping our clothes and slowing down our fashion consumption. We would love to swap with you. If you're interested in joining, you can sign up at our website. Learn more at www.swapsociety.co. That's swapsociety.co. You can find the show notes for each episode on our website. Please get in touch with us on social media too. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and YouTube for the video version of this podcast at Swap Society. Music is by Joel Korlitz and yours truly. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Please help us spread the word by subscribing, leaving a rating and review, sharing on social media, or simply telling a friend. We really appreciate your support. Have a wonderful day, and remember to swap before you shop.